Welcome to another episode of Storytellers. First, we're going to put some music, some relaxing music. In this episode of Storytellers, I'm going to read a story. Just a few pages from a book called Listen to the Wind, Speak from the Heart by Roger ThunderHands Gilbert. What an awesome name. And I just recently read this part of the book that I just was inspired to share. And the thing about inspiration is you have to act on it quickly before the feeling dissipates, dissolves, disappears. And so, let's see. Something relaxing. And this chapter is called The Perfect Storm. Surviving the Perfect Storm. So let's get into it. A high percentage of souls in the world right now are angry, scared, and apprehensive about the future. Anger, fear, and other negative emotions abound everywhere. There seems to be an overwhelming amount of pressure on the inhabitants of this wonderful planet Earth. You might call it a worldwide perfect storm. An analogy might be found in the movie called The Perfect Storm. I don't think I've seen it, or maybe I have. In which a series of meteorological events cause a horrendous and destructive storm. The series of events happening in this world right now have reached this high magnitude. An aware person certainly might ponder the outcome and wonder what they can do to ride this one out. I think that's a lot of us in today's world. The elements that make up the storm can be summed up largely with 3 words: decrease, opposition, and return. Let's take the first element of decrease. We see significant evidence of decrease in all areas of life. The financial global markets are, to put it bluntly, crashing. This causes a decrease in all of other areas, a domino effect, if you will. One of the dominoes is a decrease in tolerance, which results in anger and fear. Another component of this perfect storm is a political climate, which by a strange twist of fate is happening at the same time as a decrease. The world political climate can be considered a component of opposition. This opposition is fueling the fire of anger, hatred, racism, and religious intolerance. This is done by stirring up our most basic and primal fears of anyone who might be considered different or a threat to our survival. The third element of the storm, return, is cyclical change. Change is a fact of life, but this cyclical change is the ending of the old and the beginning of the new. Now, the decrease part of the storm can be largely attributed to the souls who inhabit this planet and live in this world. Here we go, and here we are taking personal responsibility for our shortfallings. Decrease comes when there is too much increase, a rebalancing. The increase we are talking about in this instance was an increase in the egotistical elements of greed, false pride, and materialism. The opposition element is connected with the political, ideological, and religious, not spiritual, components of our world, and is showing itself in a very ugly and angry ways. Again, we have the emotion of anger being a particularly destructive component of this storm. Now let's talk about the element of return or cyclical change for a moment. In a normal world and planet, this is a natural thing and takes different forms. However, because of the aforementioned components of greed, false pride, and materialism, the planet may be forced into a premature or early cyclical change called global warming. The greenhouse effect, global warming, and pollution of the planet are all the results of the self-centered thought. Grab all you can while you can. And how interesting it is to see that type of behavior in people today, especially with this current pandemic that we have going on. I mean, just take a good look at the people at the grocery stores. What's their behavior like? This attitude of the powers that be, or the world's leaders, is without regard to our natural habitat. The rich get richer, materialism, and the earth suffers in return. The good people on the planet who have mistakenly put their faith, future, and protection in other people's hands are having a rude awakening right now. The result being more anger and fear. Can anybody relate? It isn't a very cheery scenario or picture, I know, but there are measures that you can take to protect your sanity and remain centered and calm. In fact, if you look at the situation from a different point of view, you have the possibility to emerge from this period of time stronger, healthier, and wiser. How, you may ask? I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you. Again, I will use the analogy of the storm. Batten down the hatches. What does this mean in real terms? Simply this. Go within. For when they batten down the hatches on a ship, they go within for protection. Your goal should be to stay in the eye of the hurricane and not the wall. The I Ching, an ancient Chinese oracle, has all of the affirmation terms of opposition, decrease, and return as names for hexagrams, 64 in all, of cyclical change and phases we may experience. The I Ching is like receiving advice from a wise master, your higher self, or the deity of your choice. In times of decrease, it advises us to be still, lessen the power of the ego, and misfortune will be avoided. When our resources are limited and difficulty surrounds us, our egos generate angry and unhappy emotions. This also happens when we are unable to achieve our goals. In the current political climate, this is evident. One side may think that their ship is going down and their egos become infuriated. This hardens them so much that they propagate and display anger and bitterness. Also, because of this intense world situation, in most people's personal lives, this scenario and reaction is taking place. In other words, they find opposition affecting them and their relationship with others. Do you see what I mean by the perfect storm? I sure do. Mr. Thunderhands. Take the advice of the wise sage. This is a gold nugget for us all. Be still. Meditate and return to your quiet center. Like a spring returns to the inside of a mountain during a time of drought. Withdraw from the media, newspapers, and negative influences. If you find yourself screaming at someone on TV, turn it off. Sacrifice the ego, for it is powerless against the currents of life. You can't force progress by arguing, manipulation, or making excuses. In a sense, you are retreating to the calm of the eye of the hurricane instead of getting caught in the wall, and are flowing with the storm until it dissipates. The I Ching also speaks of the opposition, I quote, "Misunderstanding the truth creates opposition." You might add distorting truth to this also. It speaks of events in life which can tempt us into negative thoughts and mistrust of others. It can cause us to mistrust life and believe that it is working against us. The lessons that we and the planet as a whole are experiencing are lessons that we need at this time in our evolutionary journey. Couldn't be far from the truth either. Whatever is happening now, must happen. We can't resist because even if we try, we can't prevent the progress of cyclical changes that must take place. The law of nature, respecting it and being one with it, instead of going against it. It's time to display our higher and more loving aspects of ourselves. Transmute the anger and the hatred to love and let go of dark thoughts and aggressive actions. Embody the sage, Jesus, or some other high spiritual person or purpose that is your ideal. It's time to strengthen your inner light and reserves. The I Ching's comments about return offer a positive possibility to this story. It says, "A time of darkness comes to an end." This is a turning point. The greatest adversity can be put behind us at the light, and the light can return. It warns that it can't be forced, and so you might as well rest and act only when you can move gently and innocently. Return also means to return to the light within yourself. Growth is only possible when we relinquish the expressions of the ego. Pride, impatience, anger, and desire. Let things develop naturally in their own way. I love that. Like nature. There's a lot to learn from nature. Simply observe and accept changes as you observe and accept the rising of the sun. Gather your strength for a new growth ahead and return to the light. It's up to you as an individual and all of us collectively to change our consciousness, or it will be changed for us. See, right now, there's a lot of turmoil and chaos and uncertainty in the world. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of opposition, there's a lot of decrease. We're experiencing right now, our lives have been decreased. It's not really the word I was thinking of, but our lives have been minimized. It's probably it's the closest I can get to right now. Reduced to the very basic essence of life, purpose of life, which is unison, unity, compassion, love, kindness, tolerance, reverence, reconnecting with our inner selves, knowing that the world is one big mystery, accepting it. There's something to be said about solitude. I remember hearing that somewhere. But not just solitude in our environment, but also solitude within ourselves. How do we do that? We've known our whole lives how to do that. And that is to just be still. Because in stillness, something very magical happens. We attune to the life force. If you want to call it frequency, you can call it frequency. We attune, it's like a guitar, or an instrument. What do you have to do to find the right tuning, to hear the right tuning? You need silence, you need to be still, you need to be at ease, one with the instrument. It requires concentration and focus. And once you're able to get to that point, then you're able to hear better how closer or farther you are from the truth or the goal, which ultimately I think is to realize what's important to us. And in tuning an instrument, it's tuning an instrument. That's the goal. I'm going to piggyback off some parts of the book also. Misunderstanding truth creates opposition. It speaks of events in life which can tempt us into negative thoughts and mistrust of others. A lot of people in the world are living their own truths or trying to realize their own truth based on their own personal experiences. Sometimes those experiences are not good, or we may perceive them to be incorrect. However, that's not our place, for we know nothing of what that person is going through on the inside. Our place is only to simply acknowledge that they're on a journey to discover themselves, to understand, to interpret the many thoughts and emotions and ideas that are going on the inside. Whatever is happening now must happen. Sometimes things happen that are unfortunate to us or people we love. And again, that's just part of the mystery of life, the unfolding of life and energy or circumstances. We just have to, at that point, just let it be. The time of darkness comes to an end. I love that. I'll share something personal. These past few years, I've gone through some dark times, and it has caused me to become sick. Physically, mentally, emotionally, in all aspects of my life, spiritually, financially. And in order to get back to a healthier place, I had to withdraw from the world. For the few people that know me, my friends and family from Guam, shout out to you. I love you and I miss you. And I respect you. I went through a good 7 months of just complete isolation from people. And going out and, buying into the external stimulus of the world. And I had to do that to be able to get through that period of darkness. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it out alive, I believe. And I'm thankful that I held on, because that allowed me to move forward and see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm glad I did, because it's beautiful. The other side. Now, it wasn't easy facing yourself, facing your deepest. It wasn't easy facing my deepest insecurities and beliefs and self-imposed limitations. But it was necessary. And it's what helped me grow and be a better person. And I'm much more happier with my life now because of that. Not only that, I've reached a new level of clarity and personal responsibility. And that's why I'm here sharing this with you and making this video, is because inspiration hit. And that's a form of purpose, to help humanity raise its level of awareness and consciousness. And I believe that one of the ways to do that is through storytelling. That's why I'm always saying, welcome to Storytellers, and a lot of my friends know that that's my favorite thing to say. Because in stories we learn a lot about ourselves and the people in our lives. We learn a lot about ourselves retrospectively, introspectively. And it's a very effective way to not invade anybody's private life, or also ego, because you're not really pointing fingers or blaming or judging somebody, but you're through an illustrative storyline with fictional characters, you can deliver awareness. And sometimes it's easier to get your point across that way. That's why I love books. I don't read them as much as I should. It's a habit I'm working on changing. But books are nothing but stories. People's lives, people's beliefs. And also some people's attempt to help humanity increase their awareness, their consciousness. And that's a beautiful thing. Well, there's nothing much more that I can say. I feel like I've said everything I've needed to say. And I don't want to make this a really long video. We're already about 25 minutes in. So, in wrapping this up, I just want to say thank you for joining us here at Storytellers. My name is V. Hope you have a great night. If you liked this video,